According to National Electrical Code Section 210.8b2 Exception 2, ground fault circuit interrupter protection, or GFCI protection, is not required for fixed appliances that are not portable and that are installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Gas dryers and washing machines are typically considered to be fixed appliances because they are not easily movable. As long as these appliances are installed according to the manufacturer's instructions, GFCI protection is generally not required by the National Electrical Code. There may be some confusion regarding the need for GFCI protection for these types of appliances. It's important to consult the specific edition of the NEC that is enforced in your jurisdiction and any local amendments to the code. A housing inspector may have been mistaken or may have been referring to a different code requirement or a local amendment. It is important to remember that the primary purpose of a GFCI is to protect people from electrical shock hazards. GFCIs work by monitoring the current flowing in a circuit. If there is an imbalance between the outgoing and incoming current, which could indicate a ground fault, the GFCI will quickly trip and cut off the power to the circuit. This can prevent a dangerous electrical shock. While gas dryers and washing machines use electricity, they are generally designed with safety in mind and do not typically present a significant shock hazard when properly installed and maintained. If the manager reports constantly having to reset some of these receptacles, it may indicate nuisance tripping, or it could potentially indicate other electrical problems. Nuisance tripping can occur when there is a small amount of leakage current in the circuit, which is not enough to pose a shock hazard, but is enough to cause the GFCI to trip. This can be caused by a number of factors such as long wire runs, shared neutrals, or faulty appliances. It is important to investigate the cause of the tripping and correct the problem. Other electrical problems that could cause GFCI tripping include ground faults, short circuits, and overloads. These problems can be dangerous and should be corrected by a qualified electrician. When dealing with electrical installations, safety is paramount. It is crucial to follow the NEC in all other applicable codes and standards. If you are unsure about any aspect of electrical work, consult with a licensed and qualified electrician. It's always a good idea to double-check the latest edition of the NEC and any local amendments that may be in effect in your specific location. Local jurisdictions can sometimes have stricter requirements or specific interpretations of the code. To ensure compliance and safety, it is recommended that you consult with a qualified electrical inspector or a licensed electrician in your area. They can provide guidance on the specific requirements for your situation and help you avoid any potential code violations or safety hazards. It's also worth noting that even if the NEC does not require GFCI protection for gas dryers and washing machines, there may be other reasons why you might choose to install GFCI outlets. For example, you may want to provide an extra level of safety for occupants or to protect sensitive electronic equipment. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to install GFCI outlets is up to you, but it's important to make an informed decision based on the NEC, local codes, and your own safety concerns. The NEC provides a comprehensive set of guidelines for electrical installations. It's important to understand the code requirements and apply them correctly to ensure a safe and compliant installation. Remember that the NEC is not a design manual, but rather a set of minimum safety standards. You may need to exceed these standards in some cases to meet the specific needs of your installation. Also, keep in mind that electrical codes and standards are constantly evolving. It's important to stay up to date on the latest changes and revisions to ensure that your installations are compliant and safe. Consider subscribing to electrical trade publications or attending industry training courses to stay informed about the latest developments in the field. Understanding GFCI protection involves grasping the basic principles of electricity and how ground faults can occur. Electricity seeks the path of least resistance to ground. In a properly functioning circuit, the current flows from the source through the load and back to the source through the intended circuit conductors. However, if there is a fault in the system, such as damaged insulation or a loose connection, the current may find an unintended path to ground, potentially through a person. This is where a GFCI comes in. The GFCI constantly monitors the current flowing in the circuit. It measures the difference between the current flowing to the load and the current returning from the load. If there is a difference of 5 mA or more, the GFCI will trip, cutting off the power to the circuit in a fraction of a second. This quick response can prevent a dangerous electrical shock. There are two main types of GFCI's receptacles and circuit breakers. GFCI receptacles are installed in place of standard electrical outlets. They have a test and reset button on the face of the receptacle. GFCI circuit breakers are installed in the electrical panel. They provide GFCI protection for the entire circuit. When selecting a GFCI, it is important to choose one that is rated for the appropriate voltage and amperage. You should also make sure that the GFCI is listed by a recognized testing laboratory, such as Underwriters Laboratories or all. Before installing a GFCI, it is important to read the manufacturer's instructions carefully. The instructions will provide detailed information on how to install the GFCI correctly. After installing a GFCI, it is important to test it to make sure that it is working properly. To test a GFCI receptacle, press the test button. The GFCI should trip, cutting off the power to the receptacle. To reset the GFCI, press the reset button. To test a GFCI circuit breaker, press the test button on the breaker. The breaker should trip, cutting off the power to the circuit. To reset the breaker, move the breaker to the off position and then back to the on position. It is important to test GFCIs regularly to make sure that they are working properly. The NEC recommends testing GFCIs at least once a month. If a GFCI fails to trip when tested, it should be replaced immediately. GFCIs are an important safety device that can help to prevent electrical shocks. They are required in many locations, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor areas. By understanding how GFCIs work and how to install and test them properly, you can help to protect yourself and others from electrical hazards. When dealing with electrical installations, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. They can provide expert advice and ensure that your electrical system is safe and compliant. In the specific case of the laundry room, it's worth considering the environment and potential for moisture. While gas dryers may not present a significant shock hazard under normal conditions, a malfunctioning appliance or a damp environment could increase the risk of electrical shock. Washing machines, on the other hand, often involve water and could potentially create a more hazardous situation. Therefore, even if the NEC doesn't explicitly require GFCI protection for these appliances, you may want to consider the added safety that GFCIs can provide, especially if there are concerns about the condition of the appliances or the environment in the laundry room. Remember that the ultimate goal is to ensure the safety of the occupants and to prevent electrical accidents. Therefore, it's important to carefully assess the risks and make an informed decision about whether or not to install GFCI outlets, taking into account the NEC requirements, local codes, and the specific circumstances of the installation. Electrical safety is a critical aspect of building design and maintenance. By following the NEC and other applicable codes and standards, you can help to ensure a safe and reliable electrical system for the occupants of the building. If there are ongoing issues with GFCI tripping, it's important to identify the cause of the problem. This may involve testing the appliances, the wiring, and the GFCI outlets themselves. A qualified electrician can use specialized equipment to detect ground faults and other electrical problems. Once the cause of the tripping is identified, it can be corrected to prevent further issues. If the problem is with the appliances, they may need to be repaired or replaced. If the problem is with the wiring, it may need to be inspected and repaired or replaced. If the problem is with the GFCI outlets, they may need to be replaced. In some cases, the problem may be caused by a combination of factors. For example, there may be a small amount of leakage current in the appliances combined with a long wire run, which can cause nuisance tripping. In these cases, it may be necessary to take a multifaceted approach to solve the problem. This may involve replacing the appliances, shortening the wire run, or installing a different type of GFCI outlet. When troubleshooting GFCI tripping problems, it's important to be patient and methodical. It may take some time and effort to identify the cause of the problem and implement a solution. However, by working with a qualified electrician and following a systematic approach, you can resolve the issue and ensure the safety of the electrical system.